Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we're here with a hybrid video of sorts.
This was a popular video when we did it way back when.
Yes.
We're hoping it's going to be just as popular.
This is half tag video, half shout out.
Because we don't like shout outs, we like to include people in things we do, so we made our own tag.
Who the hell are we to shout anybody out?
This is the Booktube Booktuber Booktube Book Tag 2.0.
The 2.0.
So we have a new list of booktubers who we are going to take, describe, and assign a novel that we think is appropriate.
Yes. So, when you are tagged, what you do is you write prompts for your favorite booktubers that you would like to shout out. Naturally, you're going to include us. And then they are tagged in this tag to do their own.
Tag, 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 tag.
Tag, tag, tag.
You ready to start
tag,
this?
Tag, tag. Yes.
All right, number one.
Numero uno.
The Rejected Manuscript.
Yes.
In your face, no holds barred, and no fucks given. What's the most brutally honest book that you can't look away from?
Less Than Zero by Bret Easton Ellis. This is not exactly on the same level of gore as American Psycho, but just the brutal amount of no fuckery in this novel is enough to keep you up at night.
Okay. Because we agreed with ourselves, we can't keep saying Fight Club.
Yeah.
We can't say Fight Club every time. I have Animal Farm, George Orwell. Maybe not as, crash in your face as we were getting at, but when published, the balls on this novel.
Yeah.
So that is my justification for that. Anyway, number two, Steve Donahue. The book that's been there, done that, and mailed the t-shirt to half of Booktube. A classic that has everything good literature should.
I went ahead and when you think of this author, you think of the intelligent man with the white hair, and you think of a good Southern boy. Mark Twain, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And if anything describes Steve Donahue, it's the good Southern boy, right? With maybe a little bit of sneer in his smile.
I love you sometimes.
Dalton?
Steve says this is one of his favorite authors, so I figured we'd treat him with this one. And this is also one of your favorite go-tos, to quote. I don't have a copy with me here today, but John Gardner's The Art of Fiction.
Okay. The Art of Fiction is a very good reference for writers. John Gardner's not a very good writer.
I couldn't say for sure. I know Steve loves John Gardner, Adrian loves John Gardner, and here I am, the peacekeeper, so you're welcome. Number three, Just One Reader, a new person who we've recently come across. This is a young, promising novel that's going to go places.
Yeah, this is not necessarily that new, but it's one that I don't think has been tapped into in the greater pop conscious that I think it will eventually find its way into, and that is Armageddon in Retrospect by Kurt Vonnegut.
Okay.
There's a lot in these short stories, and this is a book does not get the respect that it deserves yet, but I think as time goes on, we will start seeing more references to the Armageddon in Retrospect in reference to the canon of Kurt Vonnegut.
Okay. I have, because, I found a couple copies laying around. The 10th of December, George Saunders. We've gone through this so many times. We've done almost every short story in here. But this is fresh. This is fresh writing, newer short stories, which is a rarity. And George Saunders.
Yeah.
He's a good one.
Yeah.
I enjoy him way more than I should.
Yeah,
so,
definitely worth a read.
I think so, wholeheartedly. Number four, Rebel Reads. A novel that fought the man and changed the face of literature.
I think there's only one real way to go with this, and that is The Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. This is not necessarily a novel, but a work of writing that changed generations. Forced wars, not caused them, forced them, and at the end of the day, it fought the man.
Yeah, let me back up here. Let me present Adrian Fort does a tag. Here's the answer, and it's the only one that exists. Dalton, what's yours?
Yeah.
You monster. Charles Bukowski, Pleasures of the Damned.
That's a good one.
If there's a man who is rebelling against the man, it's Bukowski.
Yeah.
And I'll be damned if this didn't change poetry not only for a generation, but for me.
That's a good answer. It's just not the correct answer.
I hate you so much sometimes. Number 5, The Poptimist. A book that took what you knew and turned it on its head, making you change your outlook.
For me, Stephen Hawking, A Brief History of Time. Because every time I pick this up and read a little bit of it, it reminds me just how dumb I really am. And when David did the cigar and whiskey tag, he reminded me just how dumb I really am.
Thank you very much, David. I have procured some Booker's whiskey. I hope that is acceptable in the canon of whiskeys.
Which he keeps promising to bring down for Variety Hour, but he never does.
I never do. But it's not the Old Crow that I used to drink. I don't have this exact one here again because I'm terrible at this, but I chose The Portable Atheist by Christopher Hitchens. Got a copy of God is Not Great. I assume that's along the same lines.
What would make you think that?
Because it's by Hitchens and it's yellow. I don't know. I mean, if Booktubeathon taught us anything, a yellow book is apparently appropriate to just say, here, go for it.
Here's a yellow book.
But no, The Portable Atheist. It was really a big eye-opener for me. It was my first experience with Hitchens, with a lot of atheist authors, a lot of just atheists in general who just wanted to muse a little bit, which was delightful. But really changed my outlook on a lot of things. So that's mine. Number 6.
Number 6, Marie Berg. A smart, intelligent, sexy book with a hint of mischief. Dalton?
Looking for Alaska, John Green. No. I'm getting better at this. I can catch them now before you smack them away from me. Why do I choose this? Because if there's one woman who you want to fall in love with, it is Alaska in this piece. And we talked about that in the review. So she gets this one, because I like this book.
Okay.
I like this book a lot, Adrian.
For me, it is Lolita.
Okay.
Now, I think smart and intelligent are obviously in here. Sexy, when you say that, it makes you a little bit uneasy, but there are scenes of erotica in this novel that you can't argue with, right?
This is true.
And there is a lot more than a hint of mischief here.
Okay.
So for me, I won't say that this defines Marie, because that might be taking things too far. But I definitely put this on the level.
That is one of your highest rated books for this channel,
Yes.
though. So that is quite the honor.
Yes.
Next up.
7, The Book Bat. A colorful graphic novel that makes you think each time you read it.
The Watchmen.
Okay.
I think that's a fine choice. That's very definitive for the comic book generation, where now you don't meet someone who has not read The Watchmen. One of the first graphic novels that I experienced that tackled real life issues through kind of a what-if scenario, whatnot. But just wonderful. Dark, gritty, not the typical graphic novel.
Okay. For me, I went with The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen by Alan Moore. This thing is chock full of literary references, and each time I go through it, I stop and I think, okay, so is there anything else that can be implied by using this character here? Is there anything else that this character doing this can mean?
Okay.
Because it dives deep into the mythos of each of the characters involved.
Okay.
Number 8, Jim Campbell. An in-depth poetry collection that makes you think, feel, and grow as a writer.
The Trouble with Poetry and Other Poems, Billy Collins. Billy Collins is one of my favorite poets. I think I've slightly turned you on to Billy Collins, I'm hoping. Almost, kind of,
No.
Once in a while.
No.
Billy Collins is great and wrote one of my favorite poems, and therefore, that's my answer for the poetry question.
It was a melodramatic poem,
I hate
so I
you
guess
so
it
much.
fits. For me, this is Crushed by Richard Sykin.
Okay.
Now, I found Richard Sykin in the middle of a haiku binge.
Okay.
Right? There are times in my life where I'll go on a haiku binge, and I found Richard Sykin in the middle of one of those, who was just completely the opposite of any of the poetry I've ever read. It's almost like Bukowski and Chuck Palahniuk had a baby.
Okay.
But it's very, very mootly pointed drama.
Okay.
Right? So I think, for me, that works.
And if you enjoy the haiku now and then, Adrian says he gets into haikus on occasions.
Yes.
I know when that happens. If you don't follow us both individually on Twitter, every now and then haiku-offs do happen, where we will spend the day arguing back and forth via original haiku.
Yes.
We need to do that more often. That's always a pleasure.
I always win. So, I mean, you'll have to get better before you challenge me again. But
Anyway.
now this one's going to take a little bit of explaining. The Hardback Hoarder. And if I don't explain this a little bit before I go into the definition, it's going to come across wrong. Allie's channel is one that I found, And she reads a lot of YA fiction, okay? And if that's your thing, that's your thing. That's fine. But I was watching this video, and the way she described this book, and I'm not going to remember this scenario word for word, but it reminded me of, I think it was Vonnegut.
Okay.
And I said, you know, if you like that, you might like this Vonnegut novel. And she said, oh, yeah, no, I've read that, and bop-a-dop-a-dop. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, so time goes on. There's another video, and something she said reminded me of, I believe it was George Saunders.
Okay.
So I mentioned Saunders, and Saunders is a real fringe element in the greater literary scene, right? Because he is a contemporary literary author. And I said something, maybe it was about Saunders, and thinking, you know, maybe she'll get that. And she came back with something else that she's read by the author and related to something else. So, a lively book that surprises you each time you read it.
Call of the Wild, Jack London.
Okay.
That is a novel that I didn't think I was going to enjoy, and turned out to be one of my favorite short reads. Very engaging, very exciting to me, and like I said, you know, moving into her channel, she does a lot of YA. Didn't think I was going to enjoy it until I experienced it, and then absolutely, I'm sold.
Okay.
So, that's mine.
For me, this is Now is the Hour by Tom Spanbauer. There are parts of this novel, because Spanbauer is such a smooth writer, that you get into this rhythm of what he is saying, and you completely miss some reference that he's made.
Okay.
You completely miss something that he's done intertextually. You completely miss some way that a character has grown. So when you go back and you read it again, and you already have that rhythm ingrained in you, so you're able to pay more attention to the words at play, you realize that. And then you realize that this had something implicated earlier in the novel. This is something that has a payoff later in the novel.
Okay.
So Spanbauer is that talented of a writer, and I think everyone should read a little bit more of him. In fact, Amy from the Dusty Bookshelf just did a really good review of Now is the Hour by Tom Spanbauer. So jump over there and check that out as well.
It'd be delightful if someone were to purchase you the Tom Spanbauer novel you've always wanted and give it to you as a gift.
It would be. Unfortunately, that person is completely forgettable.
I hate you so much. It was the best thing I've ever done for you.
Book your imagination. An intelligent and thought-provoking piece that you know you're going to reference later.
I have something a little bit different because you said reference. We've never commented on a textbook per se. We've always talked about maybe some writing books, books on writing, but we never said textbook.
Yes.
Text and context, writing about literature with critical theory. When it comes to working with reviews and talking about text, this is something that I've actually kept from college. This is your copy, actually, because we were in this class together. But no, this is one that I've actually kept and actually had to resort to going back to a few times, and I'm okay with that. So I think that's very fitting.
Yeah. For me, this is On Writing by Stephen King. We both thought around the same lines for this, and this is a book that I think is rated correctly with writers and is underrated in the greater canon of books.
Okay.
Right? This is half memoir, half how-to, and if you talk to a writer who's read it, it's one of their favorite craft books.
All right.
But anyone who has not read it says, is that the one that Stephen King wrote about writing?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. But it's definitely worth a read, especially if you're a writer. So that's my answer.
And Stephen King's an interesting man, just in general.
Yeah.
That's an interesting story altogether. But anyway, the Booktube Booktubers Booktube Book Tag 2.0.
2.0.
And yes, if you do this tag, you have to say that. People hate saying it, but it's delightful. Booktube Booktubers Booktube Book Tag. It's not difficult. Get it right.
It's not that hard.
So anyway, if you would like to do this tag, make sure, like we said, take your selection of your favorite current booktubers, give them a description, and assign them a novel, a piece of something, textbook, whatever.
And very modestly, if we may, you'd better fucking include us.
It's very humble of you. Thank you.
Yes.
It's delightful. If you like this kind of thing, give us a subscribe down below. Make sure you like this video. We always appreciate it.
Follow us on Twitter at StripCover and on Facebook at StripCoverLit. And there's an Instagram as well. What is it, Dalton?
It is Strip Cover Lit. We post pictures of you eating salad and the internet goes wild.